First, they went after him in court with lawfare. They changed the laws to make a criminal case on bogus charges that amounted to nothing more than a bookkeeping error. Fellow Democrat and Trump hater Jean Carroll came out of the woodwork with allegations of sexual assault from decades ago. They branded him a convicted felon. They even tried to kill him twice. But as we know, the plan didn't work. In fact, it backfired, and Trump saw record campaign donations and now possibly winning the popular vote. Now they're playing the celebrity card for Kamala, racking up endorsements out of Hollywood. Billionaires like Mark Cuban, Eminem, Beyonce, Jay-Z. It's not going to work. As of today, most polls show Donald Trump leading over Kamala Harris, and he's projected to win the Electoral College. The powers that be are absolutely panicking, and they will do everything they can to prevent Trump from taking over. Even Jamie Raskin has said, if Trump wins, we will use Congress to block him before the January 20th transfer. So why are they so scared? I have a special guest on today, Ross Givens, that has a 20-year track record of the financial markets, helping people understand stocks. He's been on Fox News, all of the major financial networks. Ross, thank you so much for joining me again.
Hey, Stephen, always good to see you.
So you say this is all about the money, this situation that we find ourselves in. Help me understand what you mean by that.
Well, if you follow the money, you can uncover people's motivations pretty quickly. And nowhere is that more true than in D.C. The wealthiest corporation in the world is not Apple or Microsoft or Nvidia. It is the United States government. Right? And when you think about it, they collect 16% of the country's gross domestic product. They print another 5 or 10% of it. So in other words, 25 cents of every dollar earned for every product sold, every service performed by 350 million people is spent by the government. It is an unfathomable amount of money, trillions and trillions of dollars. So politicians control that money. They write the laws, they draft the budget, dictating how and where those dollars are spent. And so the swamp is scooping bucks off the top. We know they're doing this. I mean, that's how Congress gets so rich. They have a $175,000 salary, but they're all multi-millionaires. And what they're scared of is Trump taking that away.
Yeah, I mean, Colonel McGregor, Tucker Carlson, they've all said that the thing that they fear most about Trump is interrupting the flow of money to people in Washington, D.C. If you could, will you just walk me and my audience through how exactly do members of Congress get rich? I mean, obviously, some of them come to Washington, D.C. rich, but most of them are not. And they have a good salary, but it's not enough to become multi-millionaires. So how are they leaving Washington, D.C. so wealthy?
Well, there's really two phases of it. One is while they're in office, the money they make there, and the other is after. So after they leave, it's pretty simple. They're either going to take a 7-figure paycheck on K Street, working as a lobbyist, using their Rolodex, or they'll take some cush director position at maybe one of these big defense firms that they helped during their terms. There's sort of this like, you help us out and vote our way, we'll make sure you're taken care of when your term ends, right? But the other way, and what I'm more interested in, what I follow, is insider stock trading. So if you want a senator's help getting a piece of drug legislation pushed through, well, you can't just hand them a duffel bag full of cash, right? This isn't the 1980s. It's not Scarface. There are anti-money laundering laws. There's all sorts of sophisticated bank requirements. They'll sniff that kind of stuff out. But what you can give them is information. So if, for example, you tip that politician off that maybe your company had a new drug that's about to get FDA approval, or there's a big merger that's about to be announced, he can buy that stock in advance and make a fortune when the price shoots up. Is it still a bribe? Yeah. I mean, you're still giving them money, or at least cheating to help them make it, but it is much harder to prove. In fact, it's almost impossible to prove. And so politicians have used this method to make hundreds of millions of dollars while they're in office. Is it fair? No. But this is where I come in. You see, what most people don't realize is insiders are required by law to report their trades. Those trades, those records are public information. So as you know, what my team and I do is we track these. we look for these anomalies. We look for times when these insiders are suddenly piling into the stock all at once with their own money out of nowhere. That includes politicians like Pelosi, but also corporate insiders, CEOs, board members, executives. The people have access to that inside information. So what we do is we piggyback those trades, and we've made a lot of money doing this. But that's really their playbook.
Yeah, I just read an article about I forget her name. She's a House of Representatives. She's a woman. She bought into liquefied natural gas right before Biden made all of these law changes with selling to Europe and transfer through shipping and all of that. This LNG stock ends up more than doubling. And I'm like, oh, wow, isn't that interesting that she has direct access to all of that information? It kind of reminds me of Salesforce. The guy that owns Salesforce, he also owns Time Magazine. He said that data is the new gold. And so just having that information, I know that you guys, every couple of months you host a training. You have one coming up on October 30th at 3:00. Can you just give me a brief idea of what you guys are going to be going through? I mean, just recently, I think you saw this. Donald Trump said, who needs to be investigated is Paul and Nancy Pelosi. They just happen to make this brilliant trade on Visa right before a major lawsuit. How did they know that major lawsuit was going to come? But just give my people a flavor for what will happen at this event next Wednesday.
Well, the Pelosi is a great example of that. And that's what we're going to show people how to do. Is it's like, look, they make these trades. Pelosi, in fact, got out of Visa right before they got sued. She's also gotten into stocks right before great news, which is where the money's made. And we just show people how to do this. Like, look, this is public information. You can see what stocks they're buying right now with their own money. We show them what to look for the ones that have a great chance of going up, the ones that don't, what our biggest winners have all had in common. Is it one person buying it? Is it 8, 10, 12 of these people buying it? Is there big news coming out? And so we just show them really simply how to find the database, how to track this stuff, how to follow along. It's really, really simple to do. You don't need experience in the markets to do it. We've had a lot of members make a lot of money doing it. But yeah, Pelosi, was I think Trump actually said she needs to be prosecuted, not investigated.
Okay. Now, from what I can see, not only does she feed information to Paul on what's coming down the pipe that's good, but it seems like, is also feeding him information to avoid losses. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and I think Visa was the perfect example of that. They owned, it wasn't even the biggest trade of hers. She owned $1 million worth, dumped it all before news came out they're being sued by the Department of Justice over monopoly allegations. But yeah, that saved them some money. But the trade you want to follow and what makes her a real piece of work is the stuff she's gotten in front of. I mean, she's made something like $200 million trading stocks since she took office. All this is a public servant, Stephen. And a lot of those trades have been suspect. I mean, she bought Microsoft 2 weeks before the Army announced a $22 billion contract with the company. She bought Tesla right before the puppet Biden signed an executive order mandating the whole government fleet to go electric. I think you covered this before. Do you remember the CHIPS Act from 2 years ago? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So for your viewers who didn't follow it, what it did is it awarded $52 billion to U.S. semiconductor companies. They're trying to boost U.S. production. Now, the biggest recipient of those funds was Nvidia. That stock is up almost 1,000% since then. Well, it just so happens the crypt keeper herself, Nancy Pelosi, bought $5 million worth of call options on the stock right before that bill was announced. And call options are a leveraged bet on the stock. She made millions on that trade. So she has done this over and over and over again. She has outperformed Warren Buffett. Last year, she outperformed every single hedge fund on Wall Street. I mean, there are internet groups dedicated to just following her stock trade. So it makes a lot of sense for everyday people to follow along as too. Is it fair? No, but you might as well piggyback and you get the same advantage, right?
Ross, think of the level of confidence based off the information she has, that you would have to dump $5 million into one stock, right?
But that's the thing. The way options work. If it doesn't go up in 2, 3, 6 months, whatever the time is, you lose every penny. So,
that's
it's
what I'm
like,
saying is like she knew she could bank on that information, that insider trading
100%.
to put 5 million. I mean, most Americans working their entire career don't accumulate $1 million. She dumped $5 million into one stock because she knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, how did they get away with this? Because like, I know that there's been ethics complaints. I know that there's been small fines, but those are so small, so ridiculous. It doesn't even curb them from taking the risk because the reward of this insider trading is so big.
Well, I think the reason they get away with it is because it's not just Pelosi. I mean, most of them are doing it. I sent you a graphic last night. If you can, maybe you can put that up on top of this video. But what this is, these are the stock market returns of a handful of congressmen last year. And if you'll notice, Pelosi, she's near the bottom of that list. She made 65% last year, which is almost unheard of. But Blumenthal did even better. So did John Rutherford. So did Ron Wyden, Seth Moulton, David Rouser, Garrett Graves. Some of these guys doubled their money. Look at Brian Higgins. He was a freshman congressman who made a 238% return last year. So this is how these guys, they get so rich. And it's how I've been able to make a career out of just following their trades. I don't think they're going to stop. Look at it. This is Democrats. This is Republicans. This is new congressmen. It's dinosaurs like Pelosi. I don't see them banning themselves from making these trades.
It would be crazy. I'm just looking at like Ron Wyden. I think he's on like the finance committee. This guy literally decides where the government spends money, and yet a 78.5% return, better than Warren Buffett, better than every single hedge fund, better than the S&P 500.
Right.
Like, come on, it's so obvious.
Yeah, and there was a news story done on this a while back, and they found something like 500 violations of Stock Act. I mean, a vast number of these people were making trades in stocks who while serving on committees whose actions directly affected these companies. I mean, one of them, this woman bought this little tiny med tech firm like 2 weeks before it got this massive government contract for COVID testing. Turns out she's on the committee that awarded that very funding. It's like, but what's a violation of the Stock Act? $200 fine, I think. So they're not going to stop doing it. I don't think.
No, of course they're not going to. I mean, if you're plunking down $1 million and you get even a 20% return, that's $200,000. What's $200 compared to $200,000? They're not going to pass this. I know people like Josh Hawley. They've tried to do something, but is anything like that ever going to get past Congress?
I'd be very shocked if it does. I like Hawley, and I believe him when he says it, but I think most of these guys are kind of putting on a big show. I mean, just in the last couple of years, we've seen, 3-4 bills introduced to try to do that. None of them passed. Most don't even make it to a vote. Pelosi had one of them voted on at like midnight on a holiday or something where nobody would come. The other tactic they'll use is they'll attach it to another bill they know is not going to pass. So like Pelosi got behind one. It's like, okay, yeah, I support this, ban us, and then attached it to some bill that was like, it's illegal to kill babies, or, something crazy. It's like not going to pass. And they go, oh, these Republicans, they wouldn't pass it. Right. So I think most of the outrage you see from them is it's just show. It's just an act.
Yeah, in Congress, they call that a poison pill, where they'll attach it to something that they don't have to talk negatively about the thing. They get to talk negatively about the other thing, but then it kills both sides of that. The only person I have ever seen is that Donald Trump can't be bought. The rest of these people, I think most of them are bought. They're wined and dined, fancy dinners, vacations. They become indebted to their donors and their lobbyists.
That's right.
I think that's one reason that Trump is such a big threat, is that he can't be bought. But meanwhile, they traffic in lies, such as Trump is a fascist. He's the biggest threat to democracy.
Oh,
He
yeah.
wants generals like Hitler that will attack the American people. Just utter nonsense.
Yeah, they've made a career out of taking stuff out of context. I think the threat to democracy one is my favorite because, I mean, just the sheer irony of this, right? I mean, imagine being called a threat to democracy by an administration who actively censored Americans on social media, who violated the First Amendment. The same people who made sure you lost your job if you did not take their untested, unproven vaccine. They think Trump is a threat to democracy. Yeah, okay, right. My body, my choice. Right. I mean, until there's a vaccine that we need to push through to make billions for our donor buddies at Pfizer. Right. So the hypocrisy from the people attacking was just next level. But look, the insider trading, I forgot what we're talking about. That is where the money is made. And look, I know it makes people angry. I know it's not fair what they're doing, but there is a silver lining, and that's that we can follow these trades. We can buy the same stocks at the same time, make the same outsized profits, just if you know where to look. So that's why we hold these training events, and that's what we've been showing people how to do since really 2017.
Yeah, it's like being able to pull back the curtain and see the information, why these members of Congress are, if someone puts down $1 million from, being a member of Congress, you really have to ask yourself, what information do they have? And that's one thing I like about your group is you guys then go dig in and say, okay, here's the fundamentals, but here's also what could be coming down the pipe. And this is probably why this person just bought, 15,000 shares of some stock, something like that. I love that you guys are pulling back the curtain. And now you guys have done this a few times for my community, the ability to get in and learn about this. Again, this is coming up this coming Wednesday.
That's right. Yep. October 30th, Wednesday, 3:00 Eastern time. It is an online event. It is free to attend. So I think usually put a link below the video. Just put in like name, email. We'll send you all the details. You can put your cell in. We'll even text you a reminder before. I should tell you, we're also going to send everyone who registers. We send you all the research on our newest pick. So like, even if you can't attend live, put in your number or your email. We'll send that report to you. We did one of these a few months back for your viewers, Steve, and that stock went up 300% over the next 4 months. It was like this little pharmaceutical company in the middle of drug trials at like 50 cents a share. And then suddenly the chief executive officer, the chief financial officer, half the board of directors, the chief medical officer, the guy running the drug trials, they're all suddenly putting like half their annual salary into this stock totally out of nowhere right before trials are released. It's like, you don't need to be Angela Lansbury to put that one together, right? So we did. The stock went up 400%. And so, we look for the ones that are really obvious. Obviously, we've talked a lot about politicians today, but corporate insiders are just as good. The CEO and the CFO and those people, they have access to great information about their company. And so we just show people how to find this stuff, what to look for, and how to make it, as easy and profitable as possible.
Yeah. When someone starts putting down that level of money, like that is a flashing green light that they know something that you don't.
Yep.
And nobody puts big money in to lose, right? Like, again, think about Pelosi. Why would she put down $5 million if she didn't believe that insider information was going to be helpful? I don't know if you saw this or if you know who this is, but billionaire investor Stan Druckenmiller said, sure, all Wall Street indicators look like a Donald Trump victory. Gold is up, crypto's up, banking stocks are up, little stocks like you guys promote, they're all going up. He said the election isn't over, but right now everything seems to be flashing towards Donald Trump. Any thoughts on Druckenmiller's words? Well,
Druckenmiller is one of the best who's ever done it, for sure. Smartest guys on Wall Street. Buffett reads everything he puts out. So when he speaks, I listen. And he's 100% right, though. The market is sort of a discounting mechanism. It's a forecasting model. Things move in advance based on what people expect. And he's 100% right. The market is pricing in a Trump victory. We're seeing all the areas that would benefit from a Trump victory. And look, at the end of the day, the market wants Trump. You've got one president who's pro-business, who wants to cut regulation, who wants to cut taxes, who wants to lower interest rates. And you've got one who wants to increase taxes, increase regulation, increase, right? So it's very obvious. Now, listen, if a miracle happens and Kamala wins, there are still stocks that will make huge, in fact, monster moves because no one's expecting it. So there's going to be some clean energy stocks that make big moves, and there's going to be some other stuff depending on how she wields that money, right? You're in charge of $3-4 trillion. However you funnel that money, those companies are going to make a lot. This administration's funneled a lot of it to the military industrial complex. Go look at a stock chart of Boeing and Lockheed. I mean, they've soared. It's going to be the same thing if she puts a big green energy push. Those stocks will soar. If Trump says, hey, we're going to build this giant wall, we're going to redo the infrastructure, those stocks will soar. So there's going to be profit to be made regardless. The trick is to get in front of those actions. And when you can follow the trades of congressmen, of politicians, of corporate CEOs who just left a meeting with the White House, of, pharmaceutical companies who see the drug trials, like it's just a huge, huge edge. And in Wall Street, I don't know if you saw the first Wall Street movie, one of Gecko's best lines said, you know what the most valuable information, or most valuable commodity in the world is, kid? Information. And it's just so true in the stock market.
Yeah, no, I believe it. Well, I appreciate you including my community and also all the research that you guys do. I mean, these guys, there's over 400 of them in Congress. They're all trading regularly. You guys are tracking that. There's, thousands of CEOs, CFOs, CMOs, CTOs, they're all moving money all the time. You guys are watching that on behalf of the community. So I appreciate that. Ross, I know you got to get on to your next interview. I appreciate you coming on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Hey, you too, Stephen. Take care.